Yo YouTube, how's it going? How have you guys been? I know it's been a minute, just kind of been doing my thing, being a rogue spirit and all that. But regardless, today I just had to talk about Grand Theft Auto 3, the definitive edition. And believe me, it's been a journey. I never really played this game or really gave it a shot back when it was still brand new and fresh on the PS2. I played it here and there, but it was mostly just for laughs and giggles while you got drunk with the homies and had a contest of who could get the 5-star wanted level the fastest. But you know what? Replaying this definitive edition really gave me a new perspective on it. And I'm excited to tell you guys all about my experience with Grand Theft Auto 3, the definitive edition. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, Grand Theft Auto 3 was a huge success in the gaming industry back in 2001. Playing a huge open world and being able to go wherever you wanted and giving the player a sense of freedom in which they can tackle missions in any order that they choose. When you weren't running around killing NPCs for laughs and giggles with the homies, sure made this one unforgettable experience back in 2001 for the PlayStation 2. However, I will admit that control-wise, going back to replay this game on a PlayStation 2 console just wasn't worth it. The graphics are very blurry, the controls are always trying to fight against me, and the button inputs just kinda lagged. I just moved on and prayed that one day that Rockstar would update these old games by polishing them up and giving them a graphical overhaul and making the controls more accessible for modern day players who unfortunately may have not have grown up with Grand Theft Auto 3, and thanks to the more recent games like GTA 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, which have included way more features to its open world gameplay structure and way better controls and an amazing cover system accompanied by a great storytelling that Rockstar is known for to this day. I can't really blame them for skipping out on the PS2 classics in that sense. But someone at Rockstar have probably heard my prayers, and lo and behold, we have Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy Definitive Edition, which includes all of the mainline PS2 era Grand Theft Auto games. And today, I'm going to be playing and reviewing Grand Theft Auto 3, the Definitive Edition for PlayStation 5. The big question I want to answer today in this video game review is Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition worth playing through in 2021? And do the added improvements and much needed updates to the control make this feel like a modern game while still pleasing the old fans like me who did not expect this to be a full-blown remake? Just expected it to be an improved remaster version that I can now play comfortably without clunky old school controls and graphics, and it saves me from dusting off my hardly breathing PlayStation 2 console. So stay tuned because we're about to find out just what exactly makes Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition the best version to play compared to its classic OG version, thanks to a very much need for updated features and improvements along with its controls. There will be spoilers in this review, so please watch at your own discretion, as this is an old school game with a fresh coat of paint and I would like to be in depth as possible. The story starts off with the upcoming small criminal named Claude, the main character who you play as in Grand Theft Auto 3, and in order to make a name for himself, he goes on a bank robbery mission. However, during the bank heist, he is then wrongfully betrayed by his girlfriend, Catalina, who backstabs him and sets him up for failure in the crime business. After escaping jail time, thanks to the Colombian cartel trying to bust out one of their own, it is now up to Claude to work his way up from the bottom of the ladder all the way up in the criminal business world, and he must face cartel mafia as well as the Yakuza now that he's mixed up in this lifestyle in order to stack that cake and finally get revenge by going after his ex-girlfriend who set him up and made him go through this mess in the first place. Love. It really messes you up, doesn't it? Anywho, I will admit that by today's standards, while the story works really well, and especially for a 2001 game, it does sort of feel like a setback, especially because we are spoiled with the later games, which do a much better job in its storytelling. Also, the main protagonist doesn't really speak, that kind of makes the experience a little bit less meh. But back in 2001, I bet this was groundbreaking for a GTA video game to be fully open world and going from a top-down 2D perspective to a full-blown 3D open world adventure game was mind-blowing. And I can't even deny that. It really does irritate me when every other character speaks except for the main player, and that made me remember Claude less compared to the other main characters in the franchise that come after, but still what's here is good and it is appreciated for its time. Now for Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition, the character models can look very clay-like and weird thanks to the updated graphics, but I appreciate that old school retro look, and it does look way better here than on the PS2 version, in which characters didn't even have hands and fingers, but now thanks to the graphical update, they do have hands and fingers. We've come such a long way, haven't we? Playing this on the PlayStation 5, I was really shocked at how the graphical updates made the world of GTA feel brand new and exciting and fresh while free roaming and causing chaos. As, for example, the building textures look more detailed now and the lighting effects really makes us feel like a modern game at times. Even though you can still see that yes, you are still playing a game from 2001 just with way better controls and graphics, even though they still stays true to the original source material. I am shocked at how they handled the vehicles in this game. I remember that when I played Grand Theft Auto 3 on the PS2, all of the cars that you got to drive felt barren and slippery like cardboard boxes, but thanks to the Definitive Edition, every vehicle feels like they have added weight to them, and each vehicle drives and reacts differently. While making quick turns or driving fast speed and trying to stop at full speed, you can actually tell the difference between each vehicle that you are driving. And using the R2 and L2 buttons to reverse and accelerate makes it impossible for me to go back to using the X button to accelerate. It really makes the driving feel less archaic and old, as if you were playing a shitty arcade racing game. The radio tracks are still very solid here, but I still feel like they could have added more, especially if this is a remaster or updates of sorts. And I even heard that Rockstar went cheap, and thus not all of the tracks from the original game made it in the remaster, which is very disappointing. But overall, the music radio stations get the job done in between missions and when you're just cruising around for fun. Also, I like the attention to detail when a vehicle is damaged, but the vehicles go on fire and explode very quickly, and the fact that you can't hop out of a moving vehicle while it's on fire to save yourself from getting wasted would have been very much appreciated, and it would have been an awesome update gameplay wise. Dying just because I have to fully stop my vehicle in order to ditch it and run out is annoying, and I usually end up dying right when I get out of the vehicle. This is a game from 2001. They really didn't have an excuse here, and I get it, maybe they wanted the experience to be very true to the original version of Grand Theft Auto 3, but I still think that this improvement in the Definitive Edition would have been much appreciated by modern players, or people that don't have patience like me. Apologies, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm going to save the ranting for a later part in the video review. But one thing that I do have to talk about is that the very first thing I noticed about Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition was when I booted it up, the controls just felt so smooth and modern, and thanks to that, it made replaying this game a joy and a godsend compared to me going back on the PlayStation 2 version. I really have to give credit to Rockstar on implementing the weapon wheel system as well, as it makes choosing a weapon feel less tedious and even slows down the game almost to a halt, which helps from taking unnecessary damage from gangbangers that are spraying you with bullets during the heat of the moment. Oh yeah, you can use cheat codes in the Definitive Edition, and let's be real, all of us old Grand Theft Auto fans are gonna use it either for nostalgia or just so that we can run around and blow things up or kill NPCs or run over prostitutes just to earn that 5-meter wanted level, just to see how long you could survive and last by using all of the available weapons at your disposal. This never got old, and no, I do not encourage these acts of violence in real life, but that's why I play video games. The missions in this game go from easy to very annoying, and some missions can feel very archaic in its design, and some missions can truly feel like they just drag on and on. But once you figure out what it is exactly that you are supposed to do in these missions, then the game's pacing becomes less tedious, and in some of the harder missions towards the end of the game, it's just trial and error really. The missions in GTA 3 are mostly time-based and have the player racing against a clock in order to complete it, but there are still simpler missions like go over to this spot and wait for the main boss and then shoot him down, which still made me feel like I'm this badass dude who only cares about the results. But I have to admit, most of these missions are easy to forget, and it just feels like a relief completing a story mission just for the sake of moving on. And when a video game makes me feel like that, I usually intend to just take a break, but something still kept me coming back for more. I do have to say that in my opinion, the game's difficulty spikes all over the place, and some of the missions are so long and tedious that if by chance you get busted or wasted by a goon or cop, then you basically have to repeat the whole entire mission. And for a remaster in 2021, a better checkpoint system would have been appreciated, like having a checkpoint when you are halfway through the mission, just in case you fail or die. And for the hardcore purists, there should have been an option to restart the mission all the way from the start. That would have been cool. There are some missions where you are told to go steal a specific vehicle, and finding these vehicles took forever, and it would have been nice to add a marker or something as to what location these vehicles can be found. They don't have to exactly tell me where they are, just give me like an estimate or something. Yeah, the frame rate does occasionally drop, and yes, there are a lot of glitches I ran into, such as NPCs getting stuck and not going towards the mission goal, in which I had to restart a very long and tedious mission over an AI glitch. And that's not even that, like there's still invisible walls that you run into randomly, which really upset me, but it didn't completely break the game or the immersion. But I do agree that Rockstar should have taken the time to polish this game up a bit. Some of the characters you meet in this game can make you chuckle sometimes thanks to their dark and witty humor, which Rockstar is very good at doing in their own way while still keeping things a bit on the dark, violent side of things. But Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition, even though it has a silent protagonist, still has a lot of charm and dark humor and wittiness thanks to the voice actors and the main cast of business partners that you will need to complete missions for. There's no swimming in this game, no motorcycles, and yes, no helicopters, no planes to jack and ride, which is very missed here, but I can't blame them, as back in 2001, I do remember that Rockstar wanted to focus on the cars and driving aspect before moving on to the planes and helicopters. Also you can't swim in the Definitive Edition, but honestly, like, they could have implemented it. I mean, how hard is it really? You know, like, I would expect that in 2021 I'd be able to at least swim in a Grand Theft Auto game, especially one that's being remastered for a new generation. But yeah, if they are trying to keep to the, original fan base and stay true to the source material, then I understand that. But I think this would have been a much appreciated new gen improvement to the overall GTA 3 experience. Now, this is where I might end up sounding like I'm ranting, but I believe these are topics and discussions that we need to have so that the next time Rockstar decides to remaster a game, at least we can hope that they will learn from their past mistakes, because I really love the Grand Theft Auto series, and I need to be honest. Although I do appreciate the update graphics and feels to the control, I have to say there's a lot of things missing here and a lot of gameplay mechanics that are much wanted. First of all, you can't duck or cling to a wall for cover during a shootout, which can get frustrating as a bulletproof vest doesn't last that long, especially when you're getting sprayed to death by bullets. Usually you will have to die and go in better prepared for the next time with the knowledge that you have obtained, and you have to remember where certain enemies are located or hiding. It's mostly just trial and error, but a deep cover system like the one in Grand Theft Auto 5 would have been such a huge improvement here. I also noticed that the game kept crashing on me, and during a long tedious mission, having the game crash on me just really got to me, and this needs to be fixed ASAP. I don't know if it's my PlayStation 5 or if it's actually the game itself, but Yeah, that's something that just stuck out like a sore throat. And really, doing a hardcore mission, and just when you complete it, finally the game crashes and reloads you to the point before you completed that mission. Oh, just it was horrible. It was not pleasing at all. I feel like though the auto lock on works fine in most cases, but oftentimes when trying to aim the auto lock, and every time I press the auto lock button, it would always lock onto a NPC or police officer that I just didn't want to shoot or had no need to shoot. I just had to pray that it locked onto the cartel mafia gang members before they wasted me. And I felt like using the right control stick on the right hand side to switch targets while holding the lock on button would have fixed this problem. Now, to sum it all up, is Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition worth your investment and time in 2021? Well, I feel like while the game has aged remarkably, and although the new revamped controls make the game more playable than it's ever been, and more accessible at that point, but by a modern point of view, it is also held down by some archaic gameplay decisions and structure and design, thanks to some of the missions just being tedious. And while it's fun for nostalgia's sake to go back and replay this game thanks to the Definitive Edition remaster, I do think that it will just be for giggles and laughs and will only please the older Grand Theft Auto fanbase, while new players might be intrigued or interested in checking it out, but I don't think that this game will hold their interest enough, and I don't think that new players will stick through with this one until the credits roll. And to be completely honest, while Grand Theft Auto 3 changed the gaming landscape back in the day when it released back in 2001 on the PlayStation 2, what it did for its time is truly remarkable and even awe-inspiring. And I know that the story in Grand Theft Auto 3 connects to the overall story and lore, but the Grand Theft Auto trilogy only gets better from here on out. So don't feel bad if you decide to skip out, and trust me, I am glad that Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition is a thing, but I feel like it's just more catered towards the purists. So if this game sounds like your kind of game, then go ahead and purchase it, or wait until it's on the Xbox Game Pass, although the PlayStation 5 version stands out as a superior version to play when it comes to eye candy and wonderful lighting effects, but that is an option. Besides that, wait for a price drop if you are not too sure. As for me, although I have my flaws with this remaster edition, and I feel that Rockstar could have done more here and could have implemented more modern controls from Grand Theft Auto 5, but as a long-time Grand Theft Auto fan, I enjoyed completing Grand Theft Auto 3 Definitive Edition, and I will never go back to the days of the old thanks to this remaster, and I can still see myself replaying this game for the hell of it down the road if I'm ever bored, when I decide to replay all of the games back to back. I'm giving Grand Theft Auto 3, the Definitive Edition, a 7 out of 10.
Over here at Game Radio, y'all, and check us out at GameCrib.com.
Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like this video, don't forget to like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more on video games, video game reviews, top 5s, top 10s. Appreciate everybody who watches and supports, and I will catch you guys on the next episode of RogueSpirit Reviews. Cheers, everyone. Next up is going to be Vice City.
Come to you, try to confide, but then I start thinking about the